Welcome. My name is Alistair. I'm here with Hunter Henrich, and today we're going to be discussing the real estate market, wholesaling, flipping. Hunter has wholesaled over 100 homes and has recently gotten into house flipping here in San Diego. So we're going to talk about his story, how he got started, some methods, some things for beginners, and kind of just talk about wholesaling and house flipping and making a business in the real estate market. So without further ado, how you doing, Hunter?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so hope everyone can get a lot from this. A wholesale journey or getting into investing in real estate, I wouldn't say there's any one road you can take. It's really finding out which road fits you best. My story is a little different. I got out of college and saw this company. They labeled themselves an investment firm, right? So I thought it'd be cool to go work for this investment firm and sell investment properties. And essentially what it was is a wholesale company, right, that dressed it up. And, it was great to start with this company. I wish I would have come across a video like this or other wholesale videos before starting with the company, so I could have learned and done it on my own. But doing hundreds of wholesale deals with this company was, it was a lot of learning and it was great. So I started off in dispositions, which is selling investment properties to investors. And what that looked like was meeting up with different investors throughout the day over a cup of coffee, or meeting them out at properties that we had and we were trying to sell as investment properties. And being able to work on the disposition side in the beginning, it lets you learn the market and what buyers are looking for in whatever market that you might be in. And it's good to start there. And whether you're starting with the company or on your own, that's something to do, is go to networking events, talk to other people you see that have success in the market they're in, and figure out where are people buying properties at. The market that I was in, people were looking at 75 to 80% of purchase price minus repairs. So that let me know if I was going to go find a wholesale deal, this is where I need to get it at. And so, building these contacts and working with investors is where I started. And where it transitioned to was acquisitions, which is finding the properties. And finding the properties, there's plenty of different methods, especially if you're out there on your own. You have the tried and true, which is door knocking, or, getting a good list dialed in, which whether your list is pre-foreclosures,
so let's take a step
divorce
back here.
leads. Of course.
No worries. So what exactly is wholesaling real estate?
Yeah, so I guess, sorry, I kind of got into it a little quick. To really break it down, I think that's a great question. What is wholesaling? Wholesaling is if I'm going to go buy someone's property. Let's make it easy math here. Let's say their property is $500,000. All right. And then I'm going to find an investor who is going to give me $520,000 for the property, let's say. And then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign the contract to that investor for $520,000. I make my $20,000 assignment fee because I found the deal, I wrapped it up real nicely, and I brought it to them, and they love the deal, and all they have to do is close on it, and then they're going to actually fix and flip the property or hold it as a rental or whatever their strategy may be.
Do you need a license to do that?
So you don't have to have a license to be a wholesaler. Sure, it helps a little bit to know the legal aspects of it and to be able to get access to on-market properties and offer on-market properties or list properties. But most people starting out in wholesaling actually don't have to have any real estate license. You don't have to have any money, and it's a great way to get started in wholesaling.
So you find a property, right?
Right.
That seller's willing to sell for $500,000.
Right.
And then you find a buyer that's willing to buy it for $520,000.
Right.
And then you basically will keep that difference.
Correct. And I'm sure a lot of people have the question, okay, well, how is that, let's say, morally correct, or you're not taking equity out of the seller's product? So essentially what you have to figure out is how you're providing a service to this seller and also this buyer. And that's where you're providing, that's where you're getting paid for your service that you're providing. And agents, a lot of the time, will actually think of wholesaling as something, they could go against or not. But some of those same agents will let a distressed property sit on the market for 100 days when this seller needs to sell this property. They're not selling their property a lot of the times in a distressed condition because they have the money to just sit and wait around for their property to sell. They need someone like a wholesaler or an investor to come in and provide value, who's dealt with, let's say, pre-foreclosure situations, divorced people facing divorce or people who have inherited property and they just don't know what to do with it. And that's where you really get your knowledge and your value on different things like that, and are able to help. And also, let's say, you build your buyers list to 100 buyers that buy investment properties and you know what they're looking for. How much better can you help out a seller when you have these 100 people? Yes, you're just one person, but that's essentially your pitch to the seller. If you want to do it in a moral way, is say, hey, look, I have these 100 investors. I know each of them closely, what they look for. And in your situation, I think I can help you out and provide you a service. If you're happy with 500 grand that I'm offering you, then I can make that happen. I know the market well. I've done my research. I just got to talk to my investment team and get a decision on it, and we'll get it closed for you.
Yeah. So you've wholesaled over 100 deals, is that right?
Right, that is correct. And that was with a company where I had a dispositions team that was built out, as this team had plenty of sales training, and they're doing what I started off doing, finding buyers every day and adding them to their list. By the time I got out of dispositions selling wholesale deals, before I went to acquiring them and finding them, I probably had 400, 500 buyers on my list. I really probably only kept in contact with maybe 50 of them that were really good buyers, but that's what you want to do, is build those relationships and figure out who's going to perform on time, who you can trust, and who's willing to work with you and get deals done.
So are you still with the company, or are you on your own now?
So now I'm not. So now I have transitioned to a company that flips homes. Also, when I was wholesaling this many deals, it was in the Texas market. San Diego's a little bit different. I have wholesaled a few homes in San Diego. It's a lot more competitive, and that's surprising because homes are very expensive in San Diego, but the profit margins are great, and it's a market that isn't going to depreciate anytime soon. Another thing, there's 16 million vacant homes in the U.S. right now. So someone's got to be doing something with these homes. Right now we have a housing crisis where everything is so unaffordable, and there's all these homes just sitting there where no one can do anything with them. And that's another way that a wholesaler can provide value, is reaching out to these owners of these vacant homes and seeing what it's going to take to get an investor to purchase this home so they can get it back on the retail market for someone to be able to live in it or rent it out, and kind of help with that housing shortage we're seeing.
Are you planning on kind of doing your own thing? Like wholesaling on your own?
Right. So I essentially, when I came out to San Diego, I started wholesaling on my own. And after doing so many wholesale deals, I was drawn to the flipping side of business, which is where we purchase a home. We rehab the home. It could be anything from a house that has fire damage to a home that someone was just facing foreclosure on. It's a clean home, but they need it out quick and they need it saved. And so we're going to go and just put maybe 50 to 80 grand into the house and put it back on the market. So, purchase a home, rehab the home, and then what you have after that is your after repair value. And the way you're going to get your after repair value is finding similar homes in the area that were fully rehabbed and see what those sold for. And that's what you can get after you fully rehab your home and essentially make it match those homes. But there's plenty of things you have to factor in as far as, what are the views like, what's the lot size, is there airplanes flying over, especially in San Diego.
San Diego's a lot of that, right?
There's so many variables in San Diego. But so anyways, I was drawn to, all right, I want to get into this and actually start flipping these homes and learn this side of it, because there's less risk with wholesale. You definitely make great money in wholesale. It's a great way to build a foundation. But then once you have the money, of course, what is the next step for you? And some it's to do rentals. For me, I wanted to learn and flip houses to keep building my capital up and eventually move on to rentals, or maybe keep one here or there. But I just had wanted to get to another level of it outside of wholesale, and it's been good to see the side of it and what investors do have to deal with as far as flipping homes. So many variables.
How have you? How does the money compare to wholesaling as a business? So
right.
There's obviously, if you're like an employee or you work with a company,
mm-hmm.
that's one thing. But how would you say the wholesale business compares to flipping business?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. And I almost think it depends on your preference. Let me just put it this way. There's that same house for $500,000. I could give it to an investor right now for $520,000 if it's a good deal. But maybe I keep it and I put 100,000 into it. So we're all in at 600,000 right now. And then maybe I can sell it for, let's say, 750,000. So yes, there's going to be realtor fees and closing costs, and maybe at the end of it, I net $100,000, but $100,000 sounds a lot better than $20,000 from the same exact house. The thing is being able to have that capital and resources to be able to flip it versus wholesale it. And that's kind of where you want to get to. And some, you got to make a decision. Does this house scare me a little bit? Or there certain things that I don't necessarily love about it that someone else, this might be their bread and butter and exactly what they want. And that's when you go ahead and wholesale it instead of flipping it and kind of not feeling great about it throughout the whole flip, because it can be nervous throughout a flip process. Things pop up that you're not looking for.
So one of the a little story about a backstory on myself. So I used to be in the home services industry, and I still am. I have a business in the home services industry, and I'm looking to get into the real estate because there seems to be more headroom. It's a nationwide type of thing. You could go nationwide. It's more scalable. There's less of a bottleneck. You don't have to hire as many employees. And so when I think about how I'm going to start a business in real estate, I have a few different options. You can wholesale. You can buy rentals. You can do flipping. One of the things that interests me about wholesaling is there's not as much of a bottleneck, and you can do more transactions. So while you might make like $150,000 on one house, you still have to, for example, you may be only to do it may take you 6 months to a year to flip that one house.
Exactly. Right. So
how many houses can you flip in a year? Like, is it possible to do like 4 or 5 flips a month, or 4 or 5 or 10 a year?
So that scaling, if you really break it down and think about it, you'd love to say, I'm going to do, let's just start off with 3 houses a month, and at the end of the year, 36 homes, right? You do only 50,000 on each of those homes. That's a good amount of money for a year, right? But there's a lot of variables, a lot of things could go wrong. The market's been up and down, the last couple of years for sure. And as far as really scaling it, you have to think, okay, where am I going to get all these guys who are going to work on the homes? So you have to build out your teams, one, as far as your construction teams, and 2, where are you going to find the houses? Because it takes time to go find the houses, and so building relationships as a wholesaler with other wholesalers, agents, investors, you're going to be able to have these contacts already when you go to flip the houses and say, hey, look, I'm buying now. If you come across a deal, I know the market, feel free to send it my way. And it's just getting the right systems and people in place to be able to really scale a flipping business. But it does take a lot more time than a lot of people think. To answer your question, there's no right answer. And as far as getting into investing overall, like you said, there's a lot of different routes you could take. Right now, the investment real estate space is all over the place. You have wholesale, buy and hold, or the Burr method, and then you have creative finance and subject to, which people are utilizing now. So I'm not as versed in the creative finance stuff, but I think it's great to know it, because if a seller comes to you with no equity in their home, at least you might still be able to do something with it with creative finance, and it's best to be able to help as many people as possible.
So you got into flipping. When did you start flipping?
So I just started flipping this last year. I did a couple with some colleagues when I was back in Texas, I think 5 total. But as far as really dialing in on flipping, it was just these last 6 months or so. And it is a completely different ballgame, and there's a lot of different things to look at versus
Have you finished Have you finished your first flip yet?
Yeah, I finished my first.
Tell us about that
3.
deal.
Yeah, of course. So this first one, it was a home in Escondido. We bought the home for $965,000. I am licensed, so I got, I think, a $20,000 realtor commission put into that. So we're all in at $945,000.
So hang on. So that's interesting. So you're a realtor. So when you sold the home for that customer, or how did you get that?
So I represented myself as a buyer's agent, which sometimes I'll tell the agent, hey, just keep my commission, and that's one way that it helps for you to get the deal, is to tell other agents, hey, bring me a deal that you're representing a seller on, whether it's on or off market, and you can get my buyer's agent commission too, as long as the numbers make sense for me, right? And so that's one appealing way that other agents want to bring you deals and work with you. And so since they didn't want to do that on that one, I just kept my buyer's agent commission because I'm licensed in California, and that's an easy way to get an extra 20 grand or so profit into the home, give or take.
Okay, so you bought the home and you were able to keep that 3% commission.
Correct. I think it was 2.5%, but yes, so
Okay.
it rolls into it about the same.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then how did you determine how much work you'd need to put in and how much rehab before you purchased it?
So what we've done is we've got a pro forma we've put together, which basically just tells you what return you can expect to get on all this money that you're putting in and how quick you expect to get it back. And we've built a really detailed rehab budget, which is really just in Excel, but we've spent a lot of time dialing it in as far as, okay, do you need new countertops, full kitchen remodel? Or are we going to have to do structural work and change the layout of this home? Which is the case with a lot of homes you buy that are built in the 70s and 80s. The layouts aren't the same as people want these days. And a lot of people don't account for that in the rehab budgets, which tends to cost a lot. And then the big three that you always look at typically is the roof, the HVAC, and the foundation. Another big one that's pricey for us here recently is windows too. Sometimes people leave those out and those add up quick, especially if you have sliders. So, you're looking at those things and trying to get this rehab budget really dialed in. What is it going to cost me to make this home look like the other remodeled homes in the neighborhood? And when I was looking at that, I thought, okay, I can probably get $1,350,000 if I can make it match these homes. Mm-hmm. This home actually wasn't your typical fix and flip home. It was built in the 2000s. It already had a pretty decent layout, so we didn't really have to do anything structural. And what we did is we went with the light scope on this one actually, which we still went in and remodeled the whole kitchen, all the bathrooms, but since it already had a good layout, we essentially left it the way it was and really just brought it up to kind of the 2023 standard renovation instead of blowing it all out, spending a ton of money on landscape and other things, only because the comps in this neighborhood that we were looking at, none of them were just fully revamped and none of them were screaming at us that we had to just blow this thing out of the water to get that 1.35. So what we actually did is we lowered our after repair value to 1.25 and just put less money into it, and it showed on paper that our return was going to be better. And I that's essentially what ended up happening. I think we made $100,000 net profit on this one, and since it was a 2000s build, it was clean. We got it done in, I want to say 60 days, and it sold pretty quick on the market within 15 days and a 30-day close. So let's call it 120 days. We made $100,000. I think on our all-in cost, that was something like a 10-11% return on our investment in those 120 days. So it's not bad if you compound it, over the year, and you're doing this with multiple properties, which the company I'm at, they have the resources and the systems in place, which takes time, but I think they did, 50 total this year. And that was just one of those 50. And they've been around for a long time though. And it shows where you can go. And maybe that's not your thing, that you want to be with a big company and only get a part of the profit. Maybe you want that whole 100,000, but maybe you just can't do as many. So It really depends on what avenue you want to take.
So I'm curious how a deal like that would get funded. So you have, who's going to come up? People watching this are thinking, well, that sounds great. I'd love to make $100,000 in 2 months, but where am I going to find $1 million?
Right. So that's such a good question. And it is crazy in real estate these days how easy it is to get money if you know where to go to find it. And one, I think it goes back to maybe you start in wholesale and you network, and one of the people you're going to network with and that are going to be at all these real estate events are going to be hard money lenders or private money lenders. And essentially what they do is they're loaning on your investment property, and most of them will usually loan on the purchase price and repairs somewhere around 70% of your full loan as far as what you need, and then you're going to have to bring that 30% to close. Some of them have much better deals as far as how much they'll loan you, and some of those relationships can be built over time. You can get things like a line of credit as well, or use all cash. But here's the thing with hard money: if I can buy 3 properties right now using hard money, let's just say I have $1 million, and I can get 3 properties with that $1 million that are all cost $1 million. So now I've got 3 $1 million homes with my $1 million because I used hard money. Or I could just use cash and get one. But the thing is, yes, you're going to have to pay interest on your hard money loan. So you have to put that into your pro forma or your budget and take it out of your profit. But okay, maybe one of your deals doesn't do that well. You only make 50,000. Maybe another one makes 100. Maybe one makes 75. What if that $50,000 one was the one that you just bought with cash, and now you haven't leveraged your profit as much? Does that make sense? Hard money is something a little confusing to understand, but I do think leveraging your cash in investment real estate is the way to go. And really, it is so easy to get in with no money. Like I said, depending on who you know, it's crazy. Do you know who Pace Morby is at all?
Yeah, of course. He's all over,
over the internet. He's really into creative finance and stuff. But a very interesting thing to me that he's done in his groups is they have something called the Gator method. I'm not versed with this stuff very well at all. It's not the route we necessarily take, but it's amazing to me that people can do it. So people are even getting a loan for their hard money loan. So if I had $0 right now and I went in this group and said, hey, I need someone to loan me $100,000. Here's the deal I want to buy. I have a hard money lender in place. What's it going to take for me to get this $100,000 from you? What do I need to give you? And people are actually stepping up and doing it and saying.
So that $100,000 would be what you would use for the 30%.
Right.
Down payment.
Which is very interesting. It's crazy. It's not something I've ever done.
One thing I've noticed about that, especially with commercial properties, with my first flip, when I tried to do something similar, I found out that like some of these commercial lenders will not approve, you need to have the money for yourself. Sometimes if they find out that $100,000 30% that you're putting down is not your own money, then they'll be skeptical.
It's definitely a tricky game, and like I said, it's something I'm not extremely well versed on and never done. But just speaking for someone that has no money and wants to get into it, I see some people doing it, and I think what happens is both lenders have a lien position on the home essentially. And
I see.
It's not, it's risky for those lenders out there giving someone with no money the money, and they're getting a hard money loan, but it must mean they have a pretty good deal or they know what they're doing, I'm guessing. Right.
So the cost of money these days is so high.
Yeah, right? Very high.
I mean, how has that changed how you're able to find deals?
Yeah, I mean, you have to buy deals deeper now. And, the typical hard money lender these days, depending on the state, Texas is somewhere like 12% interest and then 2 to 3 points even.
That's for hard money?
For hard money. Private money, once they know you.
And the point would be like what? A point would be like 1 point would be like 1% of the total loan amount?
Exactly. Correct. Wow. And correct. And so, that's pretty expensive. I think California, I've seen some closer to 9 and 10% as far as interest, and maybe 1 point. You're dealing with a lot bigger purchase price amounts. That's still a lot of money.
That's for your company, which they have, a big, long track record. Right. So it might be different for an individual like you or I if we go to a hard money lender directly, right?
That's very true. I don't think it changes drastically, but probably right around that 12% range is what you're looking at.
12%. So you'd pay, so let's say you have $1 million house that you want to flip. You'd pay like 1 to 2%, 1 to 2 points, which means you'd pay $10,000 to $20,000 just in points up front. Is that up front or on the end?
They do it either way. If you have a track record, they'll let you do it at the end. Or some people, hard money lenders are competing right now for business. There's so many of them out there trying to do it that a lot of them are just throwing that in. Hey, pay us the points at the end once you finish up the project. But typically,
so $10,000 to $20,000 either up front or at the end, depending on your track record, and then 10 to 12% on the whole loan. So $10,000 to $20,000 plus 10% of $1 million, that's $100,000.
Right, correct.
So you could be $120,000 in strictly interest.
Correct.
For on $1 million house.
And if you don't mind, I can pull up a recent pro forma we have and just kind of maybe let you know what our capital costs are on something that we've done recently. I can look at that deal I was looking at earlier specifically. And so we put our capital cost into these pro formas just so we know after the capital cost what we're going to make.
Yeah, you'd have to. Such a significant cost.
Right, exactly. But we do find it's better to do more deals and leverage our cash and our risk a little bit as well. So yeah, I mean, our total loan on that one I was talking about was $963,000.
Okay.
Trying to see our capital cost. So it's taking a second.
No worries. We can.
I think our total capital cost on that one was 30,000, and that was just no points. That was a straight loan at 9.25%. But since we got it all done in 120 days, but still $30,000 for 120 days, they're making a good amount of money.
Yeah,
right?
but that's not. I mean, that's not bad. I mean,
Right.
30. I mean, that's really 3%. So you didn't pay.
So it's I want to say it's the 9%.
Okay, because it's the 9%
monthly.
would be annualized. Is that right?
Right, correct.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like it wouldn't be like okay. I got
Yeah,
it.
so earlier when you
essentially-
said that 100 grand amount, I didn't catch it, but that was off.
Right. So the 9% or 10%, that's the annual. So if you only keep it for 3 months, you may only spend about $10,000 in interest per month on those types
Correct.
of deals.
Yes, that is right. Yes. Mhm.
And how long would it take to acquire those funds? Because
Yeah.
a lot of these lenders, I mean, because now essentially you're dealing with two lenders, right? Because you're going to
Right.
borrow the money for yourself, and then when you go to sell the property, the seller is going to have their own financing. So on the hard money side, how long would it take for them to go from here's a deal to here's the funds?
Yeah. So you're asking if I bring the hard money lender this deal, at what point do they approve the funds on it?
Yeah, how
Is
long
that-
would it
okay.
take for you to get the? How long would it take for you to receive the funds for a hard money loan once you bring them a deal?
So that they fund it at the closing date. So I bring them the deal and I say the closing date is December 28th. They're going to fund it on December 28th. And what they do with the repairs a lot is draws. So they'll have one of their guys come check in on the project and say, okay, you guys need money for the roof and the foundation at this point. We'll send it to your account. And then once that's complete, they'll come back and say, okay, what do you need money for now? And they do it in stages a little bit to leverage their risk is why I would imagine they do it that way.
And you have to come up with the money. So the draw, my understanding of the draw is like if I need $10,000 for a roof, then would I need to pay that $10,000 first and then they reimburse me? Or do I say, hey, here's the invoice here's a quote from the roofing people, I need 10 grand.
Yeah, so they do it different ways depending on the lender. Some people don't even want the lender to finance the rehab. They'll just do it out of pocket. But if the lender is financing the rehab, then they will give you the money for the rehab without you having to spot it up front first.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, and if you want to go back to just getting, how to find these deals or whatever, we can do that as well. Because I know someone looking at it from an outside perspective, the hard money and the finances and stuff like that sounds confusing a lot of the times, but it's really not something to stress over or worry about, especially once you're just wholesaling, because you literally need zero money at all to do that. If you have marketing dollars or some other money to help a little bit, yes, it helps, but essentially you need no money to start with wholesaling, right?
So let's talk about finding deals. And before,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Of course.
Finding deals for flips and finding deals for wholesales, is the process similar?
It's the exact same process. You could go about it a little differently. I know a lot of wholesale guys that are out on their own and they're doing the nitty gritty hard work. As far as if you're just starting off and you have no money, what you can do is go door knock. Once you have a list of people that might need to sell their home, whether it's people that are facing pre-foreclosure, which is one of my favorite lists, because you're actually able to provide a solution to these people and help them if it's done right and you're transparent and you know what you're doing and you're not getting them into trouble. Another one, like I said, people facing divorce, people that have inherited homes, houses going through probate, plenty of different lists you can pull and go literally knock on these people's door and say, hey, I'm just here to help. I saw you might be dealing with this situation. And
Would you literally go knock on their door? Or would you call them?
First starting, it's tough. Door knocking is still in. No one wants to do
That's
it
tough.
anymore.
I can imagine, hey, I noticed you're
Yeah.
about to lose your home. Can I buy it at a discount?
So there's pros and cons. You're going to get yelled at a ton. You're going to get told to F off. So yeah, the door knocking's scary. You can show up and be there for them and show them you're not afraid to meet them face to face and provide a solution to their problem. No one really does it anymore. Besides, there are people that do it and have success with it. Another one, like you mentioned, calling. Yes, you can get your list, and you can use things like Mojo Dialer. There's some other dialers where you can literally call a list of people at one time. And if they answer, it may do something like, hey, I'll call you right back. And then it connects you with them, right? So you're able to call a bunch of people at once and just sit on that dialer until someone answers. And once again, you get told to screw off a lot. But it's a lot of timing is what I've noticed. Someone might be about to lose their house in 14 days, and they finally have woken up a little bit, and they know that they need to have someone help them with their problem so they don't lose their house and take a big hit to their credit and a bunch of other terrible things that come along with losing your house. So there's, getting a list and calling. There's door knocking.
Let's talk about which lists people can check out. So there's the pre-foreclosure is your favorite.
Yeah.
What are some other lists that you can do?
Yeah. So, and man, it's so tough because I could speak for hours just on finding a property in each list. But as someone just getting started, look at something like, and talk to your other investors in your market. How are they finding success? What list are they using? But you can use things like Batch Leads or PropStream. There's some other big real estate websites that provide these lists for you and narrow them down based on what you're looking. I could go on Batch Leads right now and find a list just of pre-foreclosure leads, right? So it just depends the type of list. And if you have the money for it, you can get a list of 50,000, just everyone that they got in there that might be dealing with some type of issue, or everyone that has a vacant home currently, and you can just get on the phone and call those people. Another one is driving for dollars, which is a very old school method, and it's literally just driving around looking at houses with broken windows, overgrown grass, boards on the windows, different things like that. You can tell it's a distressed or vacant property. You write down the address or put it in your phone, a spreadsheet, and then you can go put it into Batch, that website as well, and they'll skip it for you, skip trace, and they'll give you the owner's mailing address, email address, phone number. So you have all their info, and you can reach out to them and try to provide a solution by buying their home or wholesaling it to an investor.
Okay, so there's different lists you can get. You can get either houses that look distressed, pre-foreclosures. Is there another list that would be interesting to look at?
There's a bunch. I haven't pulled lists in a while, so I'm gonna be honest. I know probate, and vacant homes is just a huge one overall. And then what you can do is cross-reference them. Maybe someone is facing foreclosure, their home's vacant, and it's going through whatever else, So
for pre-foreclosures, since that seems to be one of the more popular ones that I've heard of, I'm wondering if these people are just getting bombarded with phone calls.
100%, definitely. And a lot of the data in Batch and some of the other sites are actually pretty old. There's a guy, Michael Frankie, he runs an Instagram account, and he doesn't have a huge following, but I like what he does a lot, and he explains it very well if you're interested in the pre-foreclosure stuff. And what he does essentially is we'll go on something like auction.com and look at these homes that are facing pre-foreclosure, and he'll try to get you to reach out to the owner, of course, right? But one of the best ways to do it is find the pre-foreclosure attorneys who are getting to these things first and know of these things first, build a relationship with them. So you're the first one that kind of gets to know when that property is dealing with issues and reach out to the seller. And yes, they're being bombarded 100%. And that's why, once again, it's kind of a timing thing, because a lot of these people are delusional and they think that they're somehow going to fix the problem. And we hope that they do. And you can almost be more a real estate advisor to these people and let them know all your options, as far as you can get your loan reinstated, or, by maybe a loan modification, or you could borrow some money. Yeah, I hate this option, but you could even file bankruptcy, and that gives you an extra 45 or 60 days to figure out what to do with your home. Or you can give it to me, a cash buyer, who's going to just buy it from you, and you no longer have to deal with it. And then subject to is obviously another option where you take over the loan for them, which is just tricky and a whole nother conversation. But essentially, most of them are going to go with your cash offer. It's typically the easiest, and if they could do any of the other options, they probably already would have.
So one thing about the cash offer that I don't always understand is, it's not really a cash offer, right?
Right.
It's a hard money offer. It's contingent upon appraisal. It's contingent upon financing. It's contingent upon down payment.
Right.
And plus, it can take 30 days. or
Yes.
so, right?
So most hard money lenders will close within 7 business days.
Oh, wow.
Pretty easily, and that's why hard money is its own lending option within itself. It's a lot different than traditional loans. Most of them do require an appraisal, but they're a lot more lenient than a bank or something like that. They know it's a distressed property and they know the situation they're dealing with, and that's why the interest is so much higher than your traditional loan that you're dealing with.
Okay. So yeah, 7 days. I mean, that's pretty. I thought it would be much longer process
but
than that.
back to what you're saying, as far as if I'm a wholesaler and I'm telling you I'm giving you a cash offer, but I have no cash, I like to be as transparent as possible about it and say this is how I'm providing value with my 100 of investors who are going to close on it with cash or hard money, which can close very quickly. But some people just say, hey, I'm buying it cash, and they don't tell them the whole backstory, which is kind of, that's why sometimes wholesale gets not the best rap. It's just people going about it the wrong way. But I think wholesalers have to realize you really are providing a great solution, and you should get paid for it if it's all done correctly and you know that you're not putting someone in a bad position. Sometimes I would even reach out to some of my buyers and say, hey, what would you purchase this home for, before I go out to the home, so I know where I need to lock it up at in order for this investor to buy it and how much money I can make in between.
Okay. So you found the leads, right? Either pre-foreclosure, probate,
right.
Vacant homes, distressed homes.
Yeah. It could say one more thing
Sure.
as well. Another great method, even if you're not doing that nitty gritty work, is networking. A lot of agents, you can do things like email blast, which they don't love, but you can let them know, hey, I'm here to provide a service, and email a bunch of different real estate agents or meet them at events and just tell them I work with distressed homes. I buy distressed properties. If you get something that's not going to do the best on the traditional real estate market, bring it to me. I'll get it closed quick, and I'll pay your buyer's agent commission or whatever it may be to spice it up a little bit for them.
Yeah, so working with realtors, people that are kind of doing these things day to day.
Right.
So you found a list of people. Now you need to call them. What's that conversation usually like? Is it a lot of sales, or is it more just presenting an offer? Like, how much of it is just being the right person at the right time, and how much of it is convincing them and like being a salesperson about it?
You can go about it whichever way that you think is best, and I think you refine it over time. And there's plenty of great scripts out there that you can find on, the guys like Pace Morby's or these other wholesale gurus websites. And like I said, you refine it to make it your own. It is a lot of sales, but for me, the route that I've taken is being more personal, and my script is to build rapport with them first of all and get them to trust me and connect with me and know that I'm there to help them rather than just to steal their home and their equity and make a quick buck off of them. So I build that connection, and then I figure out what is their problem that I need to solve, and I usually know it before I call them. Hey, you've got a vacant house sitting there. It's been there for years. It looks terrible. I wouldn't tell them that necessarily, but they know that, right? Yeah. And then once you have them aware of the problem, that's when you bring in the solution awareness as far as, here's what I can do to fix this problem for you. Did you know that this is a possibility? And that's how you kind of get them into locking up the deal. So then it goes, before I ever get the price or what I would buy your property for, I want to know how I can fix your problem and provide a solution. And I think that helps set yourself apart from a lot of people that just call and say, here's an offer for your house, right?
So speaking of offers, what kind of calculation do you use to determine the value that you would need to be in this house for?
Yeah, so now at the company I'm at, we're looking for an 8 to 11% return on our all-in cash. There's a lot simpler methods depending on the market you're in, and the way that I would go about this if I was someone new is to just talk to people in the market, go to the big networking events, and talk to other wholesalers and investors and say, what calculations are you going off of? And like I said, for me and the market that I was previously in Texas, people wanted homes. Your average investor, some people are a little more greedy, but want a property for 75% of the ARV minus repairs. So if a property is $100,000, I know that I need to get it at
That's
least
the ARV of $100,000.
Let's say an after repair value of $100,000, just to make it easy. I don't think you could buy a house anywhere for $100,000 anymore, but easy math here. So the home's worth $100,000 after it's repaired. So I do the 75%. I'm at $75,000. Let's say the home only needs $30,000 repairs, so now I'm at $45,000, is what I know that someone in this market would 100% buy this home for if my repairs are correct and if my after repair value is correct, which is a whole nother thing that you have to get down and really make sure that you're diligent on, because if not, you have a worthless deal that you got all excited about and you got a seller into a contract and your numbers are wrong and you just wasted their time and your own time, and sometimes option money or earnest money that you have to put down to get the deal.
So you have after repair value 100,000, and then you want to get 75% of that.
Right, 75,000
minus the repair cost.
30,000, let's call
it. And that's
it.
if you're flipping. So if you want to wholesale,
right,
and you want to make a small little piece on that, you got to add in your cut on top of that.
Exactly. So I know I'm going to try to sell it for 45,000. So I might offer them 35,000. And if I really want to help them out or whatever the situation may be, especially in San Diego, there's much bigger spreads. I'm sure the average fee out here is 25 to 50,000. It is not uncommon whatsoever.
$25,000 to $50,000 wholesale.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even your commission out here is usually over 20,000. So
that's as a realtor,
right? As a realtor. So I mean, it's not uncommon for a wholesale fee to be that much. I mean, if you need to sell a deal in San Diego for $1 million, you locking it up at 975 isn't that crazy in my head, really. And there's a lot more paperwork and stuff to deal with in San Diego, and you have to be a lot more diligent. And it's, not that you put a lot of marketing in to be able to contact this seller and a lot of driving around looking at properties and doing your due diligence. You should get paid for your time. And it's not like you're going to get a house every month starting off. You can definitely get there. And I've done 7 to 10 houses in a month as far as wholesaling goes, but I wasn't trying to make $100,000 off of each house. What I was doing is building relationships and really letting people know who I was and how I could help, especially when it came to agents or other investors who might get properties they don't want to deal with. They would bring them to me because they know I wasn't hitting them in the knees for $100,000. I might just make 10 and 20, but I'm just consistently doing that. And then maybe they bring me a deal that they missed something on and I know I can make 50 on it. But they trust me, they like me, and they're okay with it because I took those small fees in the beginning.
Right. So you found the leads, you spoke to the buyer, you offered them a price, and then they accepted it. Let's say for wholesaling, what will be the next step after they accept the price?
Yes. So one great thing to do before you even start knocking on doors, making calls, or paying for marketing, which is another thing we can touch on later, because right now marketing as far as PPC, Google, Facebook ads are some of the better ways to get wholesale leads now. But so what you want to do is get a title company that you build a relationship with, and you know that you're going to bring them that contract, that buyer, that seller, and they're going to execute the deal and get it done for you, and they're okay with paying you your assignment fee. So once you first get the contract with the seller, you're already going to bring it to the title company. And then once you get the buyer, you're going to take that separate contract between you and the buyer, which is the assignment contract, and give it to the title company as well. And you're saying, hey, I'm no longer going to purchase this property. I'm assigning it to this buyer. Here's our contract, which states my assignment fee of X amount. They're going to close on it with cash or hard money. And typically you want to know who their hard money lender is. If they're using hard money, do your due diligence. Make sure this hard money lender can close in time. You're going to loop them all into an email, and then you're just going to make sure everything is ready for that close date that you have set in your original contract.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so you have found the leads, you've spoke to the customer, you agreed on the price, you found the title company and passed it on to them. Title company is going to just walk you through the close, and then you get your check in the mail?
Yeah, so you can get your check in the mail, or you can have them wire it to your bank account. As soon as your buyer closes on that property and the seller gets sent their funds, you get sent your assignment fee. And it's really, I know we jumped through a lot of hoops and talked to a lot of different things, but if you really think about it, this process is finding a seller who needs to sell their home, finding the home first, talking to the seller, and then you find your buyer, and then the title company takes care of it and you get paid out. The hardest part is 100% finding the deals and making sure that you have your numbers correct on the deal. And you know, like you mentioned earlier, you're pretty good at marketing and some other things. So if you're someone that has, $2,000 to $5,000 to throw into building a website and a brand for yourself. I used to have one, Hope Wave Home Buyers. And my niche was helping people with pre-foreclosure, right? And so they'd go to my website, see some good reviews, and you can start doing, Facebook and Google ads, and people that need to sell their homes, they put their info in or they call you, and that's another way to get good leads right there as well, if you have some capital.
So from the time that you found a deal to the time that you close and get your money, what can that time period look like?
Yeah, I mean, typically the seller isn't going with your offer because you're doing a really long close or using a conventional loan. They're going with your offer because you can get them their money fast, clean, and easy. So typically I would never set a closing further out than 30 days. When I got good at it and knew my buyers, I was doing 14-day closes and maybe a 5-day option period, which I think the option period is something really important to talk about.
Yeah, what's that?
Or in San Diego, I apologize, it's an investigation period. And what that is the amount of time you get to investigate the property or do your due diligence and cancel the contract without losing your earnest money deposit. Working with direct to seller, a lot of the times what I see people do is they'll do a very low option or earnest money deposit. So even if they lose it in the end, it's no big deal. They might do $100. I didn't really like to do it like that. I think it is a great way to do it for someone starting out that doesn't have a lot of money if you know you're going to be able to get the deal done. But typically I would do a 5-day investigation or option period, which gives me 5 days to get a buyer locked into this deal. So I know once I get this contract signed, it's go time. I'm calling all my buyers that I know might be interested. I'm getting them out to the property ASAP. And then what I'm going to do, which is very standard in the wholesale game, we'll call it, is to get the buyer's down payment, which is going to cover my earnest or option money, and it's going to be a big enough amount where they're not going to want to back out or walk away from this contract, because I want to know they're serious about buying this deal. And in Texas, where the homes are cheaper, is usually $7,500. That's a big amount of money to just walk away from. Out here, it's upwards of $20,000 typically every time, which a lot of people don't like to lose. So if they're putting their $20,000 down, saying I want this deal, sending it to the title company where it's going to be held, and if they default they're going to lose it, they're a serious buyer.
So there's one piece of this that I realized we kind of skipped over.
I'd like to say I feel like we've been all over the place a little bit, but that kind of sums up investing in real estate. There's just a lot of little aspects that you kind of forget here or there, but don't overthink it. It gets very simple over time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all you're really doing is you're matching up a seller with a buyer.
Right.
But talk to me about how you find a buyer.
You have a
list of buyers that you worked with, right?
Yeah.
But talk to me about that.
So many great ways to find a buyer, and I miss finding buyers and talking to these guys and watching them make good money and put a smile on their face. One really good way to do it is, let's say you're looking at a property, let's say Mission Hills area of San Diego. What I'm going to go do is look at who has been flipping homes in Mission Hills in San Diego. And then a lot of the times it's going to be under an LLC, and you use something like Corporate Wiki or White Pages to find out who the owner of this LLC is and their contact information, and you're going to call them up. That's one way to do it if you already know the property you're working with. If I don't have any properties I'm working with and I'm just building my buyers list, Facebook groups is outstanding wherever you're at, wherever your market is. That's how we linked up actually. As a real estate investment group in San Diego. There's so many of them. There's so much good value there, and there's so many buyers, and you can literally just post in there, hey, I'm building my buyers list. I've got a few deals in the pipeline coming your way. Who wants to get on my list or connect? And you reach out to these people, figure out what they're looking for, throw it in your spreadsheet or, whatever. What am I trying to say? Whatever your system of tracking things may be. So you know who may or may not want what deal once you get a deal. And another thing they even have now is things like Investor Lift, where you list your property and it automatically goes out to thousands of investors who have signed up to get that deals in that area. Another one is My House Deals. You can post it on Zillow, Craigslist. A lot of people look for investment properties on Craigslist, which is kind of crazy.
So you can post your wholesale deals on Zillow?
Yeah, you really can. And how you want to go about it is up to you. Once again, for me, transparency is key. And I let people know this is an assignment of contract, or I am assigning my equitable interest in this deal. And a lot of people, they're drawn to that. And they know that you probably know what you're doing. You probably did your due diligence, and you've basically wrapped up this deal in a pretty little bow for them and have it ready to go where they just buy it and close on it. You've done the hard work of negotiating with the seller, of finding the deal, and you deserve to be paid for it, right?
Yeah. Okay. So finding people that have flipped in the area. So, and I think one way that I've seen to do that is like PropStream.
There's a PropStream, Batch Leads, another good one. There's plenty of good websites.
Is Batch Leads mostly for real estate, or is that kind of different industries, or what is that?
Batch Leads is for, I would say, investment real estate. They have great lists. They have great skip tracing services. And I think they even have a bunch of buyers on there. I haven't used it in a while, but I know a lot of wholesalers are drawn to it and do really well with that platform as well as other similar ones. So I would just do your research and see which one's the most affordable and has the best reviews overall. And go to your networking events. There's so many good buyers at these events that can provide you value. And like I said, if you don't know in the beginning what someone's willing to pay for a deal, ask a few buyers that you trust and you've built a relationship with. Before I even started calling investors, and when I was first building my list, I had them come in and meet with me in person, so I knew that they were serious and so that they understood my process. And I just got better at being face-to-face and talking with investors.
So speaking of being face-to-face, have you done deals where, like, is it more virtual, I guess, or are most of your deals typically have some face-to-face with like the buyers and the sellers being in the same market?
Yeah.
Like that you are in. You're in San Diego.
Right. So, I would say a little bit of both. Sometimes sellers aren't around. If the home's vacant, they could live in a completely different state. So it is all over the phone. I think if you can get face-to-face, do it 100%. If one of your buyers wants to go look at a property, the main reason you're going to do it, well, to build the rapport, but another huge reason to do it is to you are a salesman, right? Read your books, get better at sales, see how other people are selling, and grow at your craft of one, acquiring real estate, and two, selling it. Because if you can acquire it, but you can't sell it, then you don't have a business, right? If you're wholesaling. So get out there and use your techniques you've learned as far as how to sell things and overcome their objections. Because investors are just like you when you're negotiating with the seller. They're going to try to beat you up a little bit and get the best deal possible. And so if they say the rehab is $100,000, but you only estimated $70,000, talk to them. Why are they getting to $100,000? Were you off, or are they just beating you up? So what are you paying for the roof? They say something outrageous. Well, my guy I can give you does it for half that price. You can overcome these objections at the property when you're face to face. If you're over the phone and you just send them out to the property and they tell you, that's where they're at with it, you don't really get the biggest chance to overcome those objections, build that rapport, and try to get the deal sold right that instant. And I know this is crazy, but I've sold properties in 30 minutes. I send it out to my investors. There's other investors interested. It's a really hot area. We run out there. They trust me. We've built our rapport over time. They look at the house, they sign the contract, and they wire me their down payment immediately because they don't want to lose that house. They know it's a good deal.
Yeah. So these days, when you find a deal, you're going out there and you're actually meeting with the homeowner and you're checking out the house. Is that what you're doing these days?
Yeah. So these days, there's not a ton of wholesalers in San Diego. I wish there was more, and I'd love to connect with as many as possible. So we're looking at a lot of on-market homes too these days. It's just very competitive. I might offer on 30 homes before I get one. So I'm typically not meeting with the sellers on these on-market homes. Another thing that we do is we have an estate sale company, actually, which is something I should have mentioned as far as finding homes in the beginning. People that have inherited homes and they're just full of junk or whatever, we provide an estate sale service, which most of them also need to sell that home as well. So that's another way that we get leads, and I'll meet with those sellers in person.
Is that a particular list that you can check out, like estate sales, or how would you find people that
No, that's a good question. What you could do is go to estatesales.net and look at estate sales, and you could put that address into whatever skip trace service you're using to find out who the current owner is. It gets tricky with estate sales because sometimes the name on the tax rolls might be the name of the deceased a lot of the times, and you got to find out their kids or their kin or whoever the property is passed on to and contact them in those situations. What we've done, now that we've built this estate sale company up over the last 10 plus years, is we have online marketing and a lot of inbound leads more than going and finding them. But I think things like estatesell.net and reaching out to those sellers isn't bad at all. Go to the estate sale on the weekend. You get to see some cool stuff and maybe chat with the neighbors or whoever and figure out who does own the home now. Maybe whoever owns the home is there supervising, and you're going to get shut down a lot. But once you get that one deal, it really makes it all worth it.
And what about auctions? Is there? I've heard some people actually will show up to auctions, and specifically even just to do like the networking aspect of being at an auction.
That is. I'm so glad you brought that up. What we used to do is our auctions were held at the courthouse every Tuesday of the first of the month, and we would go set up a table with information about our wholesale business. Even if it was just me and my company, I would go set up and say, "This is Hunter's wholesale business. Here's what we offer. Hey, I see you're at the auction to buy properties today. Check this out. You're buying these properties without ever seeing them. You're having to bid against these other people. What I can do is I can get properties for you that you're going to be able to go see. It's not going to be a huge bidding war. You just tell me you want the property and I give it to you." So auctions, great place to pick up buyers. As far as buying properties there, yes, you can get some good deals, but to me, it's risky. You're initially putting your down payment down saying I want this property, and there's no walking away from it. And most of the time, unless you're sneaking around, you probably haven't seen the property.
Okay, so that's kind of like more of a networking thing, because I can imagine you go into an auction, you're basically throwing some bait into shark water where everyone's going to try to get on their
There's
best
guys
deals.
with their earbuds in talking to their big fund managers. You've got people like Open Door and these other big funds at these auctions who can pay more because they just need a very slim return. They're not your mom and pop who need to make 50 grand because it's their yearly income or salary, right? And it's just tough to compete against those guys a lot of the time.
So, all right. So what's next for you? You've been mostly working with the company doing
Right.
wholesales, and then you transition to flips. What's your goal? What's going to be the next kind of 12 to 2 years for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So just to backpedal a little bit, I started with the company because I had no idea what wholesale was. If I could go back and do it again, I probably would do it on my own, and I would mess up a lot, but failure is, a big part of success, right? And so I learned a lot with these companies. I learned a lot as far as how to wholesale and find buyers. I learned how to acquire properties and where to go to find and acquire these properties. And now I'm learning how to flip these properties with the current company I'm at. And it's nice not for it to be all of my money because I'm alleviating a lot of risk, and I still get part of the reward and the profit share. So I've learned a lot, and I've failed a lot, and I've overcome a lot and grown a lot through these companies. And me personally, with all of this education I've got, as far as, basically got paid to get this free education and watch failures and successes. What I want to do is take that and eventually flip some on my own, right? But mostly keep properties as rentals, because I think that's how you build generational wealth, is holding on to properties. One, they're always appreciating. If you look at the real estate market over the past however long it's been existent, honestly, besides some things like the Great Depression, it's continuously went up. There's been some bad years and some scary years, but it's never really gone down. So one, you get the appreciation, and then two, someone is essentially paying for that property for you if you have a renter in there. And buying rental properties and the strategy behind that is a lot different than flipping. But let's say I buy this rental property for $100,000, and I know I can rent it out for $1,200, and I do my mortgage calculations. I know the principal, the interest, the taxes. I know how much all of that is going to cost, right? And I know that the rent is going to cover that. I've basically got an asset that's being paid for, and I'm going to refinance out of that and get all my cash back out and go do it again with another property. So I'm just going to continue to build that generational wealth with these rental properties is my goal. And I'll still flip some here and there to get capital for these rental properties. But essentially, and I think multifamily is huge. If with these rental properties, I'd like to shoot for duplexes or quadplexes, start a little smaller, and then maybe move up into some bigger 20 units. And, I like RV parks and a lot of different things that cash flow and bring income. RV parks aren't going to appreciate like a single family home or a multifamily home in a great area like San Diego, but that would be my game plan. Is now that I've learned the game and learned how to get the capital to actually build long-term wealth with it, with rental properties.
It's really hard to find a good cash flowing property in San Diego, right?
It's very tough because of the price points here.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of guys out here that they don't look in San Diego for rental properties. Yes, you get the appreciation of it, but you're not going to typically cash flow or have it cover your mortgage unless you get a really good deal or there's a lot of units there. But a lot of the guys out here are buying in other states like Texas, Alabama, some Arizona. I bet it's getting harder to cash flow there. But these littler states in Section 8, which is government, they basically pay for people's rent. The tenant pays a small portion of it. But the Section 8 actually pays a lot for homes. So people are looking in Section 8 areas in these states where homes are less expensive because, one, they know their rent's probably going to be covered. The house is going to have some maintenance. These people are going to tear these houses up a little bit. But what Section 8 pays is kind of crazy. And the smaller purchase price homes are where you're going to be able to cash flow and get some cash out and find a market that you think's going to appreciate. Charlotte, North Carolina has just boomed these last couple of years, and they really had affordable homes that cash flowed. I don't know how well they're doing with cash flow now, but if you could have got in there and got a couple homes there and just watch them appreciate and your mortgage to get paid by someone else, the renter that's in the home, I think that's outstanding. So, San Diego, maybe you find it, maybe not, but you don't have to own real estate in San Diego to be a real estate investor. You can do it anywhere in the States, really, in my opinion.
Okay, so I want to transition a little bit to the dark side of real estate and wholesale in particular, or even wholesale and flipping. So do you have any nightmare stories that you can talk to us about from your real estate deals?
And like I said, I can go on for hours on wholesaling or different aspects of it. And the nightmares, there's never really too many easy deals because you're working with a distressed seller in a distressed situation or a distressed home, or you probably wouldn't be buying the property. They'd put it on the retail market. Someone would pay them market value and they'd get a conventional loan. So with these distressed sellers, they're never the easiest to work with. There's a lot of emotion that goes into it a lot of times. I'll give you a pretty crazy home, which is interesting. I've only bought maybe 2 homes off Zillow ever, but I saw this home come on Zillow. I had my email notification set up. If a house goes on Zillow below this price, send it to my email. I saw it immediately. I knew the seller had to be getting blown up. There were like 200 saves in an hour. And I just texted them and said, hey, I'll buy this home right now at this price, $20K over what they had it on Zillow for. I just had no idea why it was so cheap. I drove out to the house, walked around the outside. It was super eerie. I didn't go in. I couldn't convince myself to. It felt so weird. And then, we're under contract. The contract's at the title company. We found a buyer. The fee was a pretty big fee on this one. I want to say it was around $50,000, but I even gave the seller $20,000 more than they were advertising it for. And I got them to trust me and go with me. Come to find out, the seller's brother was shot in this home along with another girl just weeks earlier from when we were at the house. I actually had my little brother go to the house and take pictures, and we had no idea that this had happened. Right.
So was it messy inside still?
It wasn't. They had cleaned up whatever had happened with that. And then it just gets messier. We couldn't close the deal because the mom, this was the sister selling the house, right? The brother was living there. It was the mom's house who passed away also in the home and gave it to the kids. So now it should all be the sisters, right? But where's the dad at? So they didn't have a good relationship with the dad. They hadn't talked to him in 20 years, but because of how the title company looks at things and things work, the dad is also owed a percentage of this home, no matter where he's at. And so I had to track down the dad. It went on for months, me messaging this guy on Facebook who we thought was the dad, me calling these random numbers. Finally, the guy on Facebook messages me back. We thought the deal was dead. This is like 3 months later. And it's tough to tell. I told him reach out to the sister, ask what happened. It wasn't my spot to tell him what was happening. Of course, he's somewhat distraught, but more than anything, you could tell he probably wasn't the best guy. I don't know him. I don't want to speak on it, but he went into the home. He ripped all the wiring out. He took the vehicles off the property and did some things to the home. And he also went around us and tried to sell the home to someone else and cut the sister out. And so this deal was a big mess that we ended up getting closed because we had filed a memorandum on the property, which is important if you're a wholesaler. And it's just basically saying to the county, hey, I have this property under contract. Let's make it official. And then you put a memorandum on it, which is a whole nother thing. But this happens all the time. A lot of times with these properties that are vacant and have been passed down, there's like 6 heirs and you have to find all of them. Plenty of deals have fallen out, wholesale deals that I've had, because you can't get a hold of just one heir. You've got 5 on board that want to sign. You can't get a hold of the other one, or they're just not willing to sign because they're not making as much as everyone else or something else. It's never too easy, but once again, that goes back to why you deserve that assignment fee or that wholesale fee, especially after you've dealt with a few and you know the right attorneys or lawyers to get these people in touch with, or you know how to show them to fill out an affidavit of heirship and show that they're the rightful owner of this home, and you guide them along the process to get it done, which most people would give up on a long time ago, and the home would still be sitting there.
So what did you learn from that you can take away to your future deals?
Yeah, I just think you have to know that it's never going to be easy, but this is what you want to do, and there is such good money in it, and you create your own schedule and you can be as driven and motivated as you want, you're going to have to overcome obstacles at the same time with that, right? No one just gets to do that and sit around and not overcome obstacles. So there's always going to be obstacles in real estate, whether it's your wholesale deal falling apart or a rehab gone wrong. We had one recently where there was a water leak issue, and this house is worth $2.4 million. It's our most expensive ARV aside from one other one that we've done to date. And we're now having to spend an extra $50,000 on the rehab and dig 14 feet down to solve this issue. Man. And so it's little things like that pop up all the time. And what you have to learn is that there's just going to be failure and losses with the big wins, right? And the reason not everyone does real estate is because they can't handle that stuff and they can't overcome it, or they just don't want to. And I think you just learn that it's a part of it, and just expect anything and just keep pushing, because there's going to be those deals that you might have thought you're only going to make $100,000 on that you make $200,000 on. Maybe that one we lose $50,000 on, but it's all worth it in the end, I think.
What's the most you ever made on one wholesale deal?
Yeah, so I've made a few 50 and 60,000s. I think the most ever was $65,000. And the way that I got this deal, it was a duplex that half of it had been burnt. I thought there's no way we're going to sell this thing. I didn't think we could sell it for as much as we did. And the way we got it was, back whenever I was working with buyers, like we were talking about in the beginning, I got this buyer his first investment property ever. It was a cheap little property in the hood. He used some of his girlfriend's 401k money to put the hard money down payment down. And I was over there helping him out all the time, making sure the process went well, making sure he made money on this house. And so that fire damage duplex was just down the street from the guy, and he was walking down the street, saw it. The owner was out there picking some stuff up, and he talked to the owner. He got it under contract, but he didn't know what to do with it, so he brought it to me. And so that actually happens in wholesale a lot, where one wholesaler gets it under contract, they can't find a buyer, so they give it to another wholesaler. And what we do is double close. So I told him, hey, we'll close on it for 70 grand. I think he even made 25 grand or so. He must have bought it. You know what? It's a burnt property, like 45 grand. He gave him lot value, most likely. No one knew what it would end up selling for. But, we put it out at, I think, 125 or so, whatever. I know it was a $65,000 fee. And someone bought it immediately because they lived by that duplex. They knew exactly what they were going to do with it. They had a good construction team that did cheap labor, and it made sense for them. And that's the thing, you just never know what's going to make sense for someone else. And that's why you want to get the biggest buyers list possible, because who knows if we didn't have that guy that lived down the street and just loved the area, right? We could have maybe never sold that home, period. But since we had built our buyers list up, it worked out, and I made that connection in the beginning. I helped someone, and it came back to me, right? And I think that happens a lot. So.
And I'm curious about your arrangement with the company? Like, do you get a percentage of that commission fee, or how does that work?
With the wholesale company or this current one?
Okay, so they're two different companies.
Correct.
Okay. How about the wholesale company?
Yeah, so the
and then the
wholesale
flipping
company, it was just a percentage of the wholesale fee. Yeah, it was a solid percentage. I'll say it's about a quarter of the fee, but which doesn't sound like a lot, but they do give you the resources as far as you have 15 salespeople out there selling that deal, and 15 people are going to be able to sell it a lot higher than me myself can sell it for. I could have maybe not even found a buyer for that deal and just watched it fall apart. But like I said, if I could go back to the beginning, I think I would do it on my own so I got 100%, but I would really, really build my buyers list, and I would really, really make sure that I was getting good deals and doing things right. And, you learn a lot as you go for sure. And it was good to be with the company and get that many reps in that quick and see what deals worked and what deals didn't, what people are looking for, keep a real good pulse on the market because you've got colleagues you're talking to throughout the day. And if you're just starting out, maybe your goal is to build that out by yourself, to get the systems in place. Okay, you're going to do acquisitions, you're going to find the properties, but you hire 2 disposition agents or sales agents. They're going to start calling buyers for you, getting them on the phone, and then you pay them a percentage of that fee. So maybe you take 50% and you give the sales guys, 25, however you want to do it. But that is, I think, how essentially you begin to scale. And then you hire another acquisitions guy like you, right? And you teach him how to go and find the properties, how to negotiate with sellers, how to build these relationships with agents. And now you've got maybe another disposition guy because now you're getting more deals, you're selling more deals. And I think you just scale from there and keep going. And once you've made enough wholesale fees, then you're going to maybe decide you really got a good deal on this one. So you're going to flip it. Boom, you've started your flipping journey. And you just keep building that capital and that little nest egg. Maybe you keep one as a rental. And I think that's really the way to do it if you're first getting into it. A lot easier said than done. But if you don't stop trying, you're going to get deals 100%. There's no way you won't get a deal unless you just give up or stop trying.
That's really great to hear. That's pretty much the exact journey that I'm looking forward to taking for myself.
Yeah.
I'm starting wholesaling. I know, starting from knowing absolutely nothing about wholesaling, from pretty much what I've seen on social media and what I've been able to learn from, just online sources.
Right.
Wholesaling, and then building up relationships. And then if I find a great deal, I'm looking forward to flipping it. And if I find one that makes sense to keep it, now I'm owning that home as a rental and just kind of building out my real estate business. So that's kind of exactly the journey that I'm looking for.
And that's the best way to do it for anyone out there starting out. And use whatever skills you already have to suit you best. Like, I know you're good at marketing. Maybe do some pay-per-click stuff, or maybe bring the leads to you rather than going and calling a bunch of people, because that's your skill set, right? If you're already a real estate agent and you already know all these other agents, shoot them a text. Hey, I'm kind of looking at investing in real estate now. If you have something that doesn't work on the traditional real estate market that needs a lot of work and the sellers don't really want to do the work, I'd like to throw my offer in the hat and just see if the seller is willing to maybe take a look at it or take it, and I'll give you your commission, and you write their commission into that offer. You know where you need to buy it if you're also paying their commission. Maybe you offer, if you're going to flip it, for them to list it for you after you finish the property. There's a few different ways you could go about it, I think.
Awesome. Well, Hunter, it's been super insightful. Really great to learn from you and your experience. And I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today and discussing real estate with
thanks,
us.
man. I do really appreciate you having me. I know we're kind of a little bit all over the place, but man, if you like real estate and you like doing your own thing, I say dive into it, give it a shot, and remember, you're providing value for people at the end of the day. You're not doing some schemy business. You're really, really helping some people out, and it's been great to see the smiles on some people's face at the end of some deals I've closed, and it makes it all worth it. So you're providing value, and you're making a good amount of money, and you're working for yourself. And yeah, I mean, if you have questions, go to your local networking events. San Diego has a great one, Beers and Deals, and hop into these Facebook groups that we connected in, and just start messaging people, connecting with people, commenting on stuff, and learn. If you see deals posted in those groups, go underwrite them yourself and see, do I think this is a good deal or not? But yeah, man, just get started and you're going to go somewhere. So I appreciate you having me, man. It's been great to talk.
Absolutely. So talking real estate, if you think this stuff is interesting, you want to learn more about real estate, how to make money, follow this channel. We're going to be doing a lot more interviews and just learning together. And I'm going to be documenting my personal journey into real estate. So follow and let's learn and grow together. Thank you, Hunter. It was nice meeting you.